Hi, everyone. I'm Cecilia Curtis, and this is the Friendship Tour, where we talk about the true gift of friendship and celebrate some of the really great people in my life. At the end of last episode, I challenged you to pick up the phone and call someone. Now I'm just going to check in. Did you actually do it? Did you actually call someone? If so, I'd love to hear about it. Send me a message on Facebook or Instagram. You could even email me at ccurtis@thefriendshiptourofficial.com. Now, today's episode is about being neighbor friends, and I'm going to talk with my childhood neighbor, Nadeen Gayle. I can't wait for you to meet Nadeen. Today's guest is Nadeen Gayle from Brooklyn, New York. Nadeen and I grew up across the street from one another in Wilmington, Delaware, and we were just in and out of each other's houses regularly. Our families just kind of looked out for one another. The last time I saw Nadeen face to face was about 10 years ago, so I'm really excited to reconnect with her here today. Hi, Nadeen.
Hi, Sally. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
You know, I don't understand why I could never get you to adopt the nickname everyone else called me. Everyone else called me Seal, but you had to be different and call me Sealy like I'm some character out The Color Purple. I don't understand.
Wow. You sing maybe that's why it reminded me of The Color Purple. Not sure, but I don't know. That's so interesting. Oh.
And you have known me since childhood. That's what everyone called me as a kid, but not you. You had to call me Sealy, but that's okay.
That's so interesting. I didn't know I was the only one that called you Silly.
Only one in the whole world.
Really?
Okay. Whole world.
Okay, I'll wear it with a badge of honor. Thank you for allowing that to happen.
Yes, absolutely. So I always like to ask a couple of questions just so people understand you a little bit better and the dynamics of our relationship a little bit better.
Okay.
I'll call it the friendship lightning round.
Okay.
And the first question I have for you is, when did we meet, or how did we meet?
I do not remember. I'm going to give what the memory I have is in our neighborhood, which was predominantly white. I remember being so excited when I looked outside and I was like, oh my gosh, there are Black people moving across the street. And I don't even know if you were there a good week before I came over, because I was like, I need to see who's across the street.
Right.
Yes, I do remember that. I remember looking out the window and being like, oh, Black people are moving in. And I was so excited that, there were other people moving in. So, yeah, I can't remember exactly what it was. But
I was thinking about it. I don't remember either. I remember doing stuff together, but I don't remember a moment that we met. It was just kind of, I didn't live there, and then I did live there, and then we were friends. Kind of way. So, okay. We're on the same page there. I know that you are a lover of words and a lover of books.
Yes.
And that just made me really curious. What is your favorite book?
Okay, so let me be honest. I am a literary agent. I do love books, but in a very extreme way.
Okay.
I'm an English education major as well at school. So I don't have one favorite book. I have several. So one of my first books that I love, of course, is The Alchemist by Paul Coelho. I can't remember. I think it's The Four Agreements is another book I love. How to Win Friends and Influence People. Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye, as well as I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings by Maya Angelou.
Oh.
And recently, one of my newest favorite books is The Memo by Minda Hart. In our climate today, it's really a great book about Black women in the workplace. So I really have leaned into that book. So I really love those books. So those are a few of the books that I love.
Cool. I think of the list you just gave, I've only read 3 of those books. So
only 3?
I think it was only 3. I was
That's
ticking
a lot.
them off. Yeah, I was ticking them off in my head as you named them. So I'll have to go back and listen and jot them down so I can at least get on Nadeen's book list. So I at least catch up to where you are.
Well, I hope you do join in with those books.
What is your favorite friendship moment? Something that you and I did together, a memory that just kind of stands out to you. It doesn't have to be anything major or fancy, just something that you and I did together that you remember and that stands out.
For me, there were tons of moments. Like we said, we lived across the street from each other, but I know going to church with you guys in Chester was probably one of my most favorite things. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Cool. I was thinking about we were just in and out of each other's houses. We just were. Um,
Yes.
but I think one of my favorite moments with you was actually as an adult
Hmm.
when I hadn't seen you in years and years. Your family moved to Florida.
Hmm.
Well, your parents moved to Florida, and I ended up living in Florida. And you
Yes.
told me you were in Florida, so I drove probably an hour, hour and a half to visit
Hmm.
your family. And I just felt so warm and happy seeing you after all that time and seeing your parents after all that time and meeting your son.
Oh, yes.
It was so interesting because we only had a kid relationship. I
Right.
hadn't seen you in a long time. So to see you as a mother was just a completely different thing.
Oh.
And I was like, what is happening here? So it was just very, very fun and memorable for me to see your mom after all that time and to see you and meet your son and see you in a completely different way. That really stands out to me.
As you said that, you made me remember. When we moved out of the neighborhood, for whatever reason, you were in Delaware and I was in Delaware, and you came over and help me take my braids out. I don't know if you remember that. And it
I
was
do
just
at the new place. I
yes.
don't I don't think I helped you take the braids out. I think you helped me take my braids out. I
I
think
I just remember there were braids involved, and we were
there
just.
were.
I was like, no, I want to see you, and I don't know. One of us was doing something with braids, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, well, just come over. And it
Yeah.
was, and we were saying this. It doesn't matter how much time passes, but it was just like, okay, we're jumping back in. You're around, I'm around. Let's get together. So of course, I
Yeah.
love that about growing up with people. There's such a familiarity there that it no time passes, no
Yeah.
time.
Well, I'm gonna tell you how I know it was me getting the braids out because I don't just remember that I was getting my braids taken out. I remember that you were real heavy-handed about it. I remember I was sitting on the floor and I was taking my braids out. You told me, "Don't worry." I was like, "Nadine, I look crazy. I'm in the middle of taking my braids out." You said, "Don't worry, don't worry. Just come over. I'm gonna help you take them out."
Okay.
So I got to your house, half braided, half not, and I sat on the floor, and you were just real heavy-handed about those braids. Real heavy-handed. Um, the braids did come out, but so did, some chunks of actual hair.
Oh, no,
So
don't
thank
say that,
you.
Cecilia.
Thank you for your help, but it was definitely tough love involved in that braid removal process. A little
Well,
tough
your hair is so beautiful. I apologize if I removed any of it that day. I'm sorry.
It's all good, all good. Well, you
Oh.
already said this, but I moved to Delaware when I was 10. Your
Hmm.
family lived across the street. I don't remember meeting you, but I do remember all these other warm, fun moments.
Yeah.
I remember playing Uno cards
Oh
on
my!
your porch
In the
and
summer.
yeah, in the summer. I mean, and I don't know whose cards they were. I don't remember knocking on doors. I just remember sitting on porches playing Uno. And I remember your dog Duke, who was always a little bit wild and a little bit crazy. I
Yeah.
loved that dog, but
School day.
yes, he was a little extra though. And I really remember fondly sitting in your kitchen after school some days,
Hmm.
and your mom would come home and she would maybe fuss a little bit because you hadn't started dinner or you hadn't cleaned something up. And it never made sense to me because never, because your house was so spotless. So she would come in like, Nadine, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. And I was looking like, what is she even talking about? The whole house is amazing. Um, but I didn't want her fussing at me. So that was always my cue to leave. Always my cue to leave. Uh,
Wait, but that shows how comfortable my mother was with you there too, because my mother did not care. It was like, oh, Cecilia, I'm going to go in.
no, and some of it came my way. But yes, I always felt loved and welcome in your home. And I
Oh,
do just want to say, hi, Mrs. Gale. I love you. I love you so much.
she'll be so happy to hear that. She always loves when I'm like, oh, I talked to Cecilia.
So
Yeah.
in high school, you're a year older than me. So in high
Hmm.
school, you got your license first. And you
Did.
drove me to school in the mornings
Hmm.
until we got caught cutting.
And I have no recollection of this.
All right. So we got caught cutting. Um, and I'll go back. I do not think we were gone the whole day. I think we habitually showed up at the end of first period. It
I
was,
think we went to breakfast. That we
yes,
must. Okay, I remember. Girl, yes, I did love breakfast.
yes.
Yes, I remember
We
that.
loved breakfast, and I didn't know what to do about it. I ate breakfast before I left the house in the morning. I ate breakfast, and then I'm sitting in your car, and I see the school nearby, and then you're like, "You want to go to breakfast?" So we did this multiple times. And we just weren't smart about it in the end. We would arrive at school together. Everyone knows we're neighbors. We would arrive at school together at the end of first period, and the school caught on, and the administrator said, well, why were you late? And I don't remember what you said.
Hmm.
But I remember I said I was late because we had a death in the family. And I know it's
Gosh.
horrible. It's absolutely horrible. But the sad part is, my dad's cousin, like a distant cousin, had passed away a
Uh,
day or two before. I didn't know the cousin, but I had heard my dad telling my mom that his cousin passed away. I didn't
hmm.
go to the funeral, I didn't know the details. So, in my really high school mind, I was like, it's true. I did have a death in the family.
Right.
It was true, but it was wrong. That was not
Right.
why I was late to school.
Right.
So the school called, they gave their condolences to my family. My family didn't understand how the school even knew. And that's how I got caught. I got caught.
Oh,
That's how I got caught. And that's why I was not allowed to ride to school with you anymore. So,
I don't even remember. God, I don't remember that. And I have such a good memory. Your mom must not have said anything to me because Miss Ramona would have been like, mm-hmm.
I don't think they said any. I don't know if they said anything to you. Um, and that was one of those situations. Usually it was my mom. You're right. Usually it was my mom who said something.
Yeah.
But in that case, it was my dad who was devastated. It was my dad who was like,
Oh
you,
no.
I know, I know. He was so disappointed in me. And yeah,
Oh
I'm
no.
laughing now, but it wasn't funny then. It wasn't funny.
Oh, I don't even. Oh gosh. Now I have to. When I see them, I have to tell them sorry.
Yeah, it was entirely your fault. Not the lying, but everything else was entirely your
Okay, I'll take the blame. I'll take the blame for that.
fault. But I'm saying all that to say I had a great childhood, and you were a huge part of it. Your family, they were a big part of my childhood. I think you guys were great, but I would like to know, what was it like for you growing up across the street from us? I mean, what was it like to have us as neighbors?
Oh, I
Um,
loved it. I loved it. I remember when I learned your parents would go buy your Christmas gifts the Christmas Eve.
oh, geez.
No, it was so much fun going across. It was because my parents were Caribbean. We're Jamaican, and
Hmm.
Cecilia's parents were American, and her dad was a Methodist preacher. Not Methodist. He was AME, African
Yeah,
Methodist. Yeah.
that's part of Methodist, yeah.
So I just remember, like, it was like going to church in Chester with them, and then some of Andrew's friends, Andrew's her brother, would come down from Chester. Was it Jody and um,
Marvin in the early days, yeah.
Jody and Marvin would come down, and I feel like Nikki knew Jody. It was just like always so familiar. And we would be outside playing really late during the summers when we were young. We would do Uno. And it was just always the back and forth. We went back and forth forever.
Mm-hmm.
And and I think my favorite thing, and I still use this recipe to this day. I remix it sometimes, and my family doesn't. I get in trouble for the mac and cheese remixes. I'm the one that gets in trouble. So, but Mrs. Holtz gave me the best mac and cheese recipe when I was younger. And I remember when I first started making it, and she called me over. She was like, "Let me show you," and she told me how to melt the cheese. I mean, I always remember that recipe. So I loved growing up across the street from Cecilia and the Holtz family and Aunt Betty. I mean, I knew her family, the people that would come over and visit. I could literally look up and be like, "Oh, Aunt Betty's over visiting." Aunt Betty knew me, and so it was so much fun. It was so much fun. And if you knew Cecilia, and I guess it was so intimate because I knew her, how calm her dad was, how measured he spoke, and I knew if her mom did not like something, she would tell all of us.
Yes, that is accurate.
She would look over her glasses and be like, "Okay, what do we have going on here today?"
Very accurate. Accurate.
It's such a fun, yes, to your point. I had a wonderful childhood, and the Holtz family was a huge part of it. And we had a lot of fun. And her parents and my parents were very gracious and accepting. I know, people may not be accepting of kids running back. We never were told, "Oh, keep our doors closed." Like, our parents were very, very accommodating to the friendship and the friends over and everything else.
That's true. And you mentioned something that you guys, you're a Jamaican family, and
Yes.
you were the first family I knew that wasn't American.
Okay.
And that was very interesting for me. I mean, now that I'm an adult, I view it all very differently, but there were times I didn't 100% know what your mom was saying. And it was like, I loved your mom, but I would hear her talking and I could tell she was fussing or I could tell she was happy, but I didn't always 100%. I would get like 92% of it. I didn't always know. And I would look at you to kind of translate, and she would know that I was looking at you to translate. And then that would make her fuss again. Like, what do you mean you don't understand what I'm saying? And it was just it was all very funny. But you were the first family I knew that wasn't American, and it was fun. You guys would go to Jamaica, and my parents, if they knew you were going to Jamaica, they would put in their coffee orders. And, I don't think they put in orders. I think you guys were just very kind. It would always bring them something like Jamaican
Blue Mountain Coffee. And
yes.
Cecilia had a dog named Boscobel, named
Yes.
Boscobel Beach in Jamaica.
That is
oh
correct.
My goodness, I forgot about Boscobel.
Yes. Our little Jamaican dog.
You said what?
I said our little Jamaican dog. Yes.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Oh wow, Cecilia. Yeah. Cecilia had a dog named Boscobel. Boscobel was very ornery, I believe.
Yes, a little bit. Yeah.
But Boscobel was named after a beach in Jamaica, and I had never been to that beach, and that was, interesting to us that you guys had went and you named your dog Boscobel. So that was always so nice. Oh, yes, we did always bring back Blue Mountain Coffee for your parents.
You did, which was sweet. And I know my parents always appreciated it. And, even as we got older, there were the nice neighborly things you did. I mean, we literally had the kind of relationship that if my mom was in the middle of cooking,
yes.
she didn't have something, she didn't say, go to the store. She said, go ask Nadeen if we can get an egg. Go ask if we can get a half a cup of sugar. Not a whole bag, just like enough to get me through this recipe. We definitely
cook very well too.
But we definitely had that kind of neighbor relationship. And
absolutely.
I appreciated it more as we got older. There were times when I was a kid, you and I would go out and you would introduce me to people as your neighbor. And I would get upset. I was like, why do you call me your neighbor instead of your friend? And it happened 2 or 3 times, and I got really like, I don't understand. Are we friends or are we not friends? But as we got older, I really understood and I appreciated it. That was a unique type of relationship that
it was more than a friend. It was like because you don't have to be friends with your neighbor.
Right.
And to me, when I say stuff like that, it was like, okay, yeah, she's my friend, but she lives with me, y'all. This is not somebody who I'm cool with. When you say neighbors, like our parents know each other. So this is, it's more familiar, because I'm Jamaican, you're American. I can't say, oh, you're family to family, but I'm like, yo, this is my neighbor, y'all. So you take her in with me.
Yeah. And I understand that now, but as a 12 or 13-year-old, I didn't always understand that. I didn't understand, what's the difference? Why am I always the neighbor instead of the friend? But
love.
No, it's all love. And I saw that love so clearly. My mom, I think I was in college. My mom was in the hospital, and your mom is a fantastic nurse. And my mom was in your mom's hospital. And my parents called, and they were so happy because your mom was there for my mom at the hospital. She wasn't her patient, but she made it her business to check in on my mom and make sure she was okay. And that meant a lot to our family. She didn't have to do that, but that's when it was clear that, okay, we're not just friends. We are neighbors in every beautiful sense of the word. Today people, it's true. And just so you know, people cry pretty much every episode. And and if they don't, I do, or I cry just before the episode thinking about it. But it's true. I mean, people now, we don't talk about neighbors all the time in such a positive light. We talk about how noisy our neighbors are, or how nosy our neighbors are, or how your neighbor looked at you funny, and, dot. But what I saw with you, I think, was how neighbors can be part of that larger village and part of the community that makes life rich and makes life beautiful. So I am forever okay if you don't call me your friend. I am very happy to be called your neighbor, because that is a relationship that is unique to.
It is so unique. And I still call you I still introduce you as I'm like, well, this is my childhood neighbor. Yeah. Like, because for me, to your point, and thank you. And I am, I didn't even think about some of these things you're saying. But yeah, they're very fond memories for me as well. And I didn't think about my childhood this way. But yeah, like, I call you my neighbor because it was different. I mean, and I you know what? I guess I took it for granted. We had so much fun growing. I do tell people about the Uno the Uno games and everything. And to be able to, like, get dressed on a Sunday, and I didn't have to go to my home church and be like, I'm going to church with Cecilia. And the thing was, I didn't even have to ask. Those friends where you don't necessarily have to ask your parents' permission. That was what I was allowed with Cecilia. I didn't have to ask, oh, can I go to Cecilia's? I could say, oh, I'm going to Cecilia's house. And there was never a pushback like, you didn't ask, could you go? It would just be like, oh, okay. You going, like, there was never any pushback about going to your home. And, our parents generally did not let us stay over the night at people's houses. So to have a friend where you could stay at their house till midnight, 1 a.m. and, you or Andrew or whoever would just look out the window and just watch me cross the street. Those things are amazing, amazing things that I guess I really did take for granted at the time. And this recollection is so sweet. Oh gosh, Cecilia.
Well, you guys were fantastic neighbors. You are a fantastic friend. We had a great childhood together, and I'm just so happy that we've reconnected today. Yes. I would also like to say hi to some of our other neighbors. We had a nice little triangle of neighbors.
Yes.
So we had the Gales, and then we also had the Brooks family. Carlton and Jason Brooks were even closer than your house. Their garage and our garage were just across the street from one another. Yeah. So I'd love to say hi to Carlton and Jason.
Hi, Carlton. Hi, Jason. I see them on Instagram at times.
Do you? I see Jason. I don't see Carlton a whole lot, but
I've never seen Carlton. I don't think I've ever seen Carlton.
Okay. But, there were lots of cool families in the neighborhood and in the community, but the Gayle family and the Brooks family, you guys were super, super close. And yeah, you were Black. So that just, it is what it is. So you're our
It's what
family.
it is.
Thank you, Nadeen. I
Oh,
love you.
so good for the soul. This was very sweet. Thank you.
Thank you. I love you so much.
I love
And
you too.
let's talk more. Let's talk more.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Have a good day. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, you too, babes. Love you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, Nadeen, for a great conversation and, of course, for being the best neighbor ever. I also want to thank you for being such a great encourager since I started the podcast. I am so, so, so thankful for you. Now, I hope all of you will join me next week when we talk with my friend, Wendy Aline, about growing apart and growing back together as friends. In the meantime, be a great friend to someone today.